Welcome back to the show. Today on the Mess in the Middle, I have Simone, and I'm very excited to get into a conversation with you and see where you are in your business and how you're getting through the mess in the middle. So please, let's take a few minutes and let's learn a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into how we can help some people today. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am the marketing coach for ambitious coaches and consultants who are ready to amplify and elevate their marketing and book out their offers with what I call hell yes clients, right? And
Yay.
this, yeah, hell yes client. And this level of marketing is 50% mindset, 50% strategy, and what I always say, 100% fun, because marketing to me
Nice.
is honestly the best part about building your business. And it can be fun, it can be easy,
Good.
it can be simple, and you don't have to burn yourself out in the process. And that's really something that I love to lean in and coach and teach my clients to do. I have
Nice.
Yeah, and that comes from, truly that passion comes from a love of marketing because I have 20 years of marketing experience. I was the head of marketing for a tech firm. I was driving brand leads, customer experience for a number of organizations. And then I actually jumped into teaching, a tenured
Nice.
professor teaching students, graduate students, marketing and digital marketing strategy. So truly, I really believe in that. I love marketing. And I love teaching that to my clients and my students about how they can build it in a really authentic, ethical way.
We need more of that. And I
Mhm.
know that there's a lot of us out there that do what you're doing, but there's a fine line between I want to do it the right way where it builds longevity, where I could transfer
Mhm.
those skills to any kind of widget I'm selling
Yeah.
versus the I'm looking for numbers. It's only about revenue and the widget is not relevant.
Oh,
There's such a divide there. So it's great to hear that there's other marketers like me that want to do the right thing at the right time.
yeah.
Awesome.
I love that you just said that because I agree with you. I see so often, people are like, oh, but it's the numbers. We need to have a lot of people following us. We need to have a lot of leads because the more leads we have, the better. I mean, it's just a numbers game. Automatically will convert. But
Right.
that's not true.
Not true.
And to your point, when you do it right, you do it the right way. What we want to be focusing on is client centered marketing.
Right.
Okay. And when you are client centered marketing, you're listening to your customers and you're doing something, you're building relationships with them. And I love this idea that, what if we just made a promise and we stuck with it? Like that's being authentic and
Mhm.
that's having integrity. And I think that we want to lean more into that type of marketing
Yeah.
because once you learn the foundation of client centered marketing, to your point, you can take that skill set and you can apply it to any offer you have, any service, any product, because the foundations never change. Because at the
That's
end of the
true.
day, we're just humans. All we want to do is make connections and we want to have meaningful conversations. And that's all
Right.
that marketing really is.
And we wanna help.
And we
That
want
is
to
the
help.
other
Absolutely.
huge thing that I'm getting. So say out of 30 podcasts that I've done, probably 25 of them started their business because they were looking to help.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I know that helping is part of an entrepreneur, but at the same time, I didn't realize what a core trait it is that I am seeing. And the widgets don't matter. It could be coaching, it could be courses, it could be a brick and mortar. That is like a fundamental piece of every one of these people that I've been talking to, which is pretty neat to see these patterns showing up.
It is really neat, and you're right, I think that really great marketing is serving. It's part of
Yeah,
this, right? It's showing up, it's asking to help you, it's showing you how they can help you, it's giving you social proof ahead of time, it's solving your problem, and when you come from it from really that place, it doesn't have to feel icky or gross or sometimes those feelings that we get when we're trying to sell a service or a product, or if you're especially if you're a coach or a consultant or a solopreneur, and you're selling your own services, people
mhm,
can start to feel that way. But that doesn't have to be the case when you're honing in on
yeah.
service and really focused in on your client.
So let's explore the customer centered thing a little bit because some of the listeners may not know exactly what you're referring to. But the other thing I want to do is there's so most business owners, let me back up for a second. Most business owners don't want to be marketers. They have no desire to become marketers. Now, if I take the platform of I'm not trying to make you be a marketer, but you're still responsible for your marketing. So if you can't
Mm,
hire yet, you have to learn enough to get it working to be able to generate revenue, then to hire somebody. So it's not that everything should be focused to become who you and I are,
yeah.
but they are responsible for bringing in the right people or for learning enough to know what it's supposed to look like when it's done properly. So let's explore that a little bit with what you just said.
You hit it right on the nail. I know whenever
Yeah.
I talk to somebody about marketing, they're like, "Oh, can I just give that to you? Can I give that to somebody else? I don't want to
Mhm.
be responsible for it." And I work with a lot of service-based or value
Yeah.
driven entrepreneurs. And like you said, they got into business to help somebody. They want to make someone's life better. They want to see that transformation. But I think if we think about it, so a couple things. One is we want to think about marketing as that generous act of helping someone solve a problem, right? Problem. So when you think
Good.
about it that way, that's all about helping them seek a transformation because you're just helping them become the better version that they want to be.
Okay. Ok
When we lean into that and we take responsibility for that to your part, then I think we can show up so much differently. But when we
okay.
are showing up in our business and all we're thinking is, oh, I have to do social media or I have to set up a funnel or I don't know, someone told me I should be doing ads and be on TikTok, but I hate being on video. That's such a different type of energy you're bringing to your
Yeah.
business. But you are 100% correct. When you are first building your business, you have to be the one marketing and building your business. You are the brand. You
Yeah.
are the person that people are going to relate to based on your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions, and what your personal philosophies are. If you're on
And
a mission to do
yeah.
something, that's what's going to attract them to you.
And the
So,
energy that you're putting out around that. But to add on to what you just said, if you're looking at your marketing negatively as, "Oh, I have to do this thing. It's so incongruent with who I am." Don't you think that the other person on the other end of that is also gonna pick up that energy from you, and they'll never get to actually why you're in business to begin with?
absolutely. And that's the part that I think that when people
Yeah.
are starting to scale their business and they're able to be at the point where they have revenue coming in, they could hire someone to take on and alleviate some of their
Mhm.
workload. They think, oh, I'll just give that to them. But that's the opposite. You're always going to be the one in charge of your business. You always have to be the CEO of your business. And the CEO is in charge of marketing direction, the vision and the
Yeah.
strategy. And that is a huge part. You still have to tell the person that you're working with what you want them to do, how it needs to look and feel, because it's your voice. I'm so glad that you brought this up because it's something I feel pretty passionate about because leaders use their voice to amplify their message.
Agreed. Y
And
Yep.
so when that is what your marketing is doing. Your marketing is amplifying your message. And you have to be the leader that does that, right? Because at the end of the day, your voice is the foundation of your message and your business in many ways.
Right.
So, how are you stepping in as the leader of your business to talk and deliver your mission, to talk to your clients, to amplify that? And I think that's so important.
Okay, so they hear us. I hope they hear us, how important this is and how much I don't want you to look at it like, "Oh my gosh, this responsibility is
Mhm.
so big and my business isn't gonna succeed without it." It's not that it's that. What I mean, there's a lot of different channels that you can explore to start marketing your business effectively. If you're not comfortable with video, find something else. If you're not good at writing, do video. If you're not good at video, do audio. There are so many different options that you have to get started that there's seriously no excuse, right? Pick one and just dig into it until you do it really well and you start seeing some results. The goal is to little by little add more channels or opportunities to build a network, a community, engagement, people to find out about you, whatever that end goal is. But Simone just said, you got to start with a strategy. What is the plan and the purpose for you using that channel to begin with? Yes, you wanna be congruent with it, because otherwise you're not gonna stick to it. You're just not. I've tried to put people on platforms that they weren't congruent with. I've gone back 6 months later, and I'm like, "What happened? You guys spent $20,000 with me to build all these systems." "Oh, the girl you trained, she left, and none of us really knew what to do. So we just went back to our old ways." And don't do that. Pick something you're congruent with that you can actually stick to, build it up enough, and then, like we said, once it's generating revenue, you can delegate it
Absolutely.
because then we can hire.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I love that you said that because something that I work a lot with my own clients with is really when we look at like creating a really simple marketing plan, but it's so important. I have clients that create really simple, doable marketing plans. And especially when they're first starting out, we dive into one or two platforms that they just want to dive into because A, their clients are there, and B, it's where they feel comfortable being as well. And so I have noticed that when we only focus on one or two things and do that well, we get so much more success and we start to build up so much more traction quicker. You're building better content, you're connecting with more people. I think that makes such a big difference. And I just had a client just the other day who was, to your point, just struggling a little bit with where they were, what they were doing, because they were like, oh, it doesn't feel right going on and just always just writing all the time. I just find it's harder for me to sit down. I've got a writer's block when I do this. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, what are your strengths? And they were like, I went on this interview the other day. Someone was asking me questions and I could just talk nonstop. I loved it. It was so good. I was like, let's play to your strength. So then
Yeah.
that person started to get more interviews on podcasts. And then they started to go on and just answer questions. And it was so natural to them. And they started to do their marketing from a place of their strengths, not what they thought they should be doing or looking a certain way, just utilizing what they did really well on the platform that they desired to be on.
That is awesome. That is a huge challenge. The competition of getting online and seeing your friends and seeing your competitors and seeing other businesses having so much success or appearance of success is makes you feel like you need to fit into that widget. It's almost, I don't know, are they the bullies? Are they the popular kids? If you go back to these silly psychological things that we all run into,
Mhm.
and as a business owner, you got to step back and you got to say, I don't need to compare myself to that. That doesn't necessarily need to be my path. That is not the only way to success. Let me step back here and what you just said, what am I congruent with and where's my audience? And those two pieces should be how you decide you're going to show up online.
Yeah.
You got to block out all that noise. So let's shift for a second. With that being, with us just talking about customer centered, which we got off the path there, but let's go back and visit that a little bit. How do I know what I'm supposed to do to get customer centered? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So I always just say client centered is putting the client at the middle of what you do.
Okay.
We always start with understanding who our client is first. Who is our ideal client, right? And we want to get really clear on that first, because once you're clear on who that person is, that's how you build out your offer around that. That's how you build out your messaging. That's how you then build out your plan. We always want to start with the who in the middle and then build everything out. And
Mhm.
in order to do that, you have to also be continuing to get really clear and focused. You have to be asking questions and really listening. And you also have to have empathy for your client because you have to understand where they are. Because the best marketing is always understanding and being in your client's shoes to a certain degree and understanding where they are in their process, in their journey to maybe hire you or in their journey of solving a problem.
If I look back at the last 14 years of owning an agency,
Yeah.
I would say 70% of them have never gone through that exercise to find out who their client is.
Wow. Why do you think that is? Because I always find that so interesting myself.
Yeah, maybe they think I know. So the story that I typically hear is Audra, I created this product or service for myself because I couldn't find a solution. I know there's other people that need it too. Other people that are going through this trauma, this pain, this opportunity, whatever it is, right? Whatever pushes you as the entrepreneur to start that business. And so they just look for people like them to sell to. But I think if they would step back, hindsight's what, 2020, if you try to figure that out. But people going forward, if you slow down for a second and actually force yourself to go through the process, because people I talk to don't want to do this, it's so worth it. Right now, think of it this way. You're going to the park or you're going to Central Park in New York City. You're just walking around and you're walking up to people saying, are you interested in talking to me? And then moving on to the next one. Are you interested in talking to me? Versus finding a mall that has all your people in it and you just get to walk in and you already know that you're at the right place.
Yeah.
Such a different opportunity. And you waste so much time because you skip this step trying to do other things. Just do social media, I'll run paid ads, I'll
Yep.
do videos. And if you would have just backed up and taken the time to do this, all those extra steps that you're taking would have gotten you so much quicker results.
Yeah. You know what just came to my mind when you were saying that is like you're out on a rowboat and you're just
Mhm.
like, okay, I want to catch a fish, but I don't know what fish. And then I was told if I put this in and this in and this in and this in, I'm gonna get a fish. I can't wait to fill up my boat. But then no one bites.
That's a great yeah, that's a
Because
great
there's maybe you're
analogy.
not maybe in the right spot and you have too many things out. Instead of attracting the right people
Right.
to you, you're attracting not the right people. Or they're getting deflected, they're going somewhere else because it's just too overwhelming and too confusing. But if you just went to the quiet spot on the lake and you put in the one thing, then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're for sure going to catch the not only just a fish, but the right one that wants to hear and wants the right message.
Yeah. I know you guys hear this all day, every day, but it's worth repeating because it's still a
It
challenge
is.
because people are not backing up and doing this step.
Yeah. And then, it goes to demything, I think, of just that idea
Yeah.
of what we talked about at the very beginning, where people are like, obviously, it's about the mass marketing. And this is the part to that point where people, I think, compare and despair a little bit. I find sometimes they're comparing themselves to the $2 million, $10 million coach when they're just starting out. You're at a different journey than where they are. And you know what's making them really successful now? They're focused.
Yep.
They know who
Yeah.
their people are. And they are talking
Yeah.
directly to their people with a specific benefit that they can care for them and they know exactly what they want.
Yeah. You're not going to get to $1 million if you haven't figured out who your target audience
Yeah,
is. It's just not going to
exactly.
happen
Isn't that
unless you're selling pet rocks or something. It's just not going to happen. It's just not the way it works. But with that said, okay, so I figured out my audience. Now I'm ready to move forward. But there's so much noise out there. How do you suggest they pull it back and focus? What would those next steps look like?
okay? So the very first thing, so you focus, you know exactly who you're connecting with, right?
Mhm.
And you want to find that right group for you. Then I think it comes down to story. You need to develop a story that matches the narrative and dreams of that tiny market that you're going after. And I know some people like to skip this part, but I promise you, in my 20 years of experience, every time we would launch a campaign, okay, we're launching a huge campaign. We're looking to hit these revenue targets in a very short amount of time, and we will put out what we believe is awesome into the market. And we're like, why isn't this landing? And I promise you, it's because our story wasn't dead on. And you have to listen and you have to understand like what is aligned or what are the stories that you need to tell that are your customers' views. But messaging is important, right?
Yeah.
People like you do this, or I solve this person's problem this way, right? But getting really clear is really important because you have to have a great story before you can spread it. And you want to tell that story in a way that's easy to share. And what I say, you don't have to spread it by spreading it to everybody. You just have to find the one or two platforms where your people are and just
Yeah.
go all in on that.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that I've mentored through different organizations. They can get the mechanics done.
Mm,
So I got a widget. I know who my audience is.
yeah.
And then they get stuck in that technology space where I just need a funnel and I just need
Mm,
emails.
yeah.
And from a building stage, they get the right pieces there, but they don't nail the message or the story to connect buyers. So they're getting the traffic there, but nobody's buying. And the reason is it's because you're not saying the right things. You're not, maybe you're too focused on benefits, maybe your features, you're focused on what you think is going to be important to them, but you never even connected the dots back to the story. You didn't take them through that arc of solving a problem, stating the problem, sharing that your product actually offers a solution for it. Without tying that together, the rest of that mechanics that you set up, that's just that. There's value in it, but it's not where the focus should be. The
Yeah.
focus needs to be on the words on the page, the
Mm,
story that you're telling to get the rest of that to work. You brought up focusing at the right things at the right time. Businesses are not a straight line, but there are still stages that we go through as we validate an idea, launch the
Mm,
product, start to grow it, go into scaling. There is some loose stages that we go through. And without the technical stuff, I hear that all the time. We built the funnel and we're buying ads and nobody's buying. And I'm like, but their focus was I got the mechanical stuff there. It wasn't the focus on I spent 2 months working on the right copy.
yeah.
That's like an afterthought. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly, like, around my client that I know who needs this, and I
yeah.
agree, and that's usually where people start to get into the overwhelm and the dread when it comes to
Yeah,
marketing because they're focused on all these technicalities instead of pulling it back, and that's why I love to keep my clients out of those weeds because
yeah.
we wanna do it when it's the right time as well for you, depending on where you are in your business. We
Mhm.
wanna be layering these on one after the other. And so to that point, like that's why I always suggest let's go in on one or two platforms and let's optimize those platforms first before we add a third one. Cause you even mentioned this, right? You're like, do this first and then add this one and then add that one. And I think that's really important because if not, you're going to have all these to dos and then you're just busy in your business instead of busy on your business, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to make it harder for you to show up. I think showing up in your business to market and talk about your product or your service is huge. Building your
Mhm.
confidence, creating that movement. You know what? That all comes down to showing up consistently, not only for your business and your people, but for yourself. And I think that's something that I see when you're swimming and overwhelmed with all, like you said, the technology, all the technology. That's the first thing that burns out is you.
You know
Right.
what I'm finding is doing these mess in the middle podcasts, I get to talk to business owners that are in different stages. And I want to say the majority of them, they're all tripping on the same thing. They may be at different stage.
Yeah.
Some actually get through the tech and then move on to the messaging and maybe flounder there for a while, but then figure it out and have moved on. This is what I find. Tech gives a new person control
Interesting. Tell me more.
because I only have to. So I'm building on WordPress. I can watch a video on YouTube that tells me step by step what to do in WordPress, and I can see a tangible result by the effort that I'm putting in. So that control at the beginning gives them confidence to stay going down that path of technology. Here's the
Um,
challenge though. Flip it up. I know nothing about copywriting. I know nothing about the psychology of messaging. I know nothing about putting an offer together. Trying to learn that is so much harder. So I'm going to go with something that I can find online that is going to click funnels or lead pages or unbounce or whatever software, go high level, whatever they're going to use. I can step by step. Somebody shows me, I can move to the next step. Somebody shows me, and that gives them control and that gives them confidence that they're spending their time on the right thing because they're making progress. I set up an email marketing
yeah.
campaign step by step with that technology. But the one thing they actually needed was all that time to work on the messaging, the offer, the right audience. Somebody else could have backfilled that, or they do that afterwards.
Yes.
But that's the path where they get stuck.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's so interesting kind of when you said the word control, because it's like, oh, tell me more. But you're right. There is an
Yeah.
element when you're an entrepreneur that you don't know, especially when this is your first time doing it, because you're like, I'm not sure how this works. It is a little
Mhm.
bit of the unknown. And I think that there is two elements there. It's easy to get bogged down with the to-do list because it feels like you're
Mhm.
making progress, even though
Right,
you're
right.
and then the second is just you're really holding your belief. And something that I really work a lot with my clients and on is really the hardest part about starting a business and even growing and scaling a business is the belief that you have the demand and that people want what you have to offer. Is holding the belief before sometimes you even see the results.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
easy to get out of belief, which is why we default, like our brains love this idea of feeling productive. So it's why we default to those
Well,
to
I'm
do.
working
Why we
towards it. I'm gonna get
exactly, we're
that
doing it.
success.
Miserable.
I
Yeah.
did. I set up I built half my funnel today.
I'm guilty as charged.
Oh,
Okay. I
sister, so many.
love going through a to-do list. I love feeling productive. I love at the end of the day being like, yep, did that. There's a difference between a to-do list and a result list.
Correct. Oh, that's a good one. Let's explore that a little bit.
Yeah. So like a to-do list is send an email and, oh, I have to do this or to update the link and what or whatever. But a result list is, okay, what is the result I actually want to accomplish? What do I want out of the end of working today? Is it that I want to have a completed funnel? Let's say, is it I want to have all my marketing copy done and scheduled for the entire month? Is it that I want to sign 2 clients by the end of the week? That's how I'm gonna measure my success. What is the actual result we want versus just the list of things that we have to do?
Yeah. I compare it to the strategy versus the project as a whole
Mhm.
versus the individual tasks that need to happen within it. I think here's the other trip up. A lot of people that start their own business have an expertise in something. Okay. So they feel like they can just immediately ramp up when they start their own business. I've worked for John for 10 years. I know exactly what needs to do. This is how I'm doing my product a little bit different. And then, so they think they're going to make a lateral move to entrepreneurship,
Mm,
but it's not. Yes, your expertise. So I think they don't think about the messaging and the benefits and features and everything, that getting that part right, because they feel like they already know it. So they
mm,
come down here and they start at the bottom with all the technical stuff, try to work through that. And 9 times out of 10, like you said, they'll either burn out
mhm.
because they can't figure out the technical stuff, even with the stuff that's out there. That's just not their space, or they run out of money, or they get this part built, but then you're really starting over again because you don't have your brand out there. You don't have your message. Nobody knows you, and you haven't figured that out yet. So it's another 6 months to try to figure that part out, which I think we need to replace that. You need to start building community. The process should be test and validate that idea. Once you've done that, then you start building community, all that kind of stuff. Don't spend a ton of money building a website or a funnel. You need a
Yeah.
funnel, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of free stuff out there to get you started
Oh, I agree.
until you
I
make a
agree.
few bucks.
Yeah.
Again, being responsible and
Mhm.
being a good steward, not just of the money that you're spending, but of your time.
Mm.
So much time is wasted that you could have been much further than you are in your business if you would have done things a little bit different
Oh,
order.
I agree with you. There's so often my clients, especially when they're starting, they're like, I have to get my website in order, this, and have my freebie and my funnel before I can start to before I can
Talk about it.
first, before I can ask for business. And I'm like, no, you're asking for business first. And then that stuff comes as you go. We want to be selling our services, marketing our services all the time. And it has to be something that the technical part is something that supports that first. It's not
Mhm.
that before this. It's actually the selling and the marketing first, and then adding the technical components as you go. And I was just going to add too, you mentioned something really interesting just about people coming into their business like it's lateral. And it made
Mhm.
me think as an entrepreneur, we have so many different hats we wear. And I think
Yeah.
your point, we forget about that we do have to wear other hats. And I always say to a lot of my clients that I coach, right? You have your CEO hat, you
Mhm.
are the technician, and you're the practitioner,
Mm.
right? So if you're like a website guru, you're the practitioner, you're the person working with a client, doing that client work. The technician is like working on the back end part of your business, but then the CEO is responsible for the revenue and the marketing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy, to your point, we forget about all those different hats we have to wear,
Yeah.
and we only focus on the one that we really like
Or comfortable with
or
or have the
comfortable with,
direct
or we don't want to
experience.
grow into.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot. It makes it so much bigger in terms of just like understanding the skill set or under building a skill set. It's also stepping into a new version of yourself and a new way of thinking that I think people don't always realize until they start in it, until sometimes they're messy in the middle.
Yeah. You're not kidding. My first adventure, I had coffee shops.
Yeah.
And probably the first 6 months, I struggled. Oh, Lord, I struggled. It was my first business. I wasn't used to being the boss,
Yeah.
having to fire people, having to hire people, having to put systems in place. All that kind of stuff was super challenging. Went to see my accountant and he's, "Hey, Audra, how's it going? I see your shop's always busy." And I'm like, "Man, I just can't figure out this consistency thing." And it was in a town where grew up. So I knew a lot of people, and I couldn't even go to the gas station, run in to get a gallon of milk or something where somebody wouldn't stop me and say, "Hey, Audra, I was in your shop the other day and so made my drink, but it's not the same when so and so makes my drink." And inconsistency was killing me. And people were starting to get a little frustrated with it. And I was telling my accountant, I'm like, dude, I can't figure this out. I don't know how to make everybody do the same thing. And he
Mhm.
says, have you read the E-Myth? And I'm like, no. You think I got time to read? I got 3 kids. I'm a single parent. I'm going to school full time. At that point, I had maybe 20 employees. It was still small. And he's, you got to read this. You'll understand what needs to happen. It probably took me another 2 or 3 months before I picked up the book. I had to get frustrated enough that I couldn't nail this because control doesn't work. You
Yep.
can't
Yep.
be there 24/7.
Yeah. That's
So
so true.
I sat down over a weekend and went through it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, the light bulb just went on. I was like, how did I not understand this? But we don't know what we don't know until somebody
Mhm.
shows us.
Yeah.
That completely. So I went back and completely restructured everything. Within 3 months, I opened a second store.
Wow. So
I mean,
what
I figured it out.
yeah, when you figured it out, was it just like how to create consistency in the customer experience?
No, so I was trained to build from the bottom up,
Ah,
and you
okay.
can't expand things from the bottom up. You have to actually build from the top down.
Oh,
And
got
so
it.
once I went in and I built all the systems, so anybody could come into any one of my coffee shops, from turning the lights on in the morning, everything, how to turn on espresso machines, how the drinks were made, how recipes for everything. Kind of, this is pre Starbucks. That kind of stuff didn't exist yet, but turning it into a system. So you did not have to have a stitch of training. If you had this book, you could run one of my coffee shops.
Love
But
that.
it took me coming in from 40,000 feet saying, okay, how do I get everybody to consistently do the same thing? If they're taught from the same recipe, instead of I taught you, you taught her, she taught him, it gets lost in translation at the exact result that you're trying to get. But if everybody's taught from the same source, they have to go out of their way to do it wrong.
Yeah, I love that.
So, it
I
made such a huge difference, and just to wrap that up, that has served me for every single business I've had, and probably over half my clients. I'll go in, say, "Okay, wait, we don't go this way, we go this way. What is our goal? What is our strategy?" Then it's just a matter of who goes where to deploy it,
love
period.
it.
Super simple.
So simple. And you know what? You're so right. It's like that idea of top down. If you think about that and
Yeah,
you apply that thought process to your marketing, that's so different too. It's like
exactly.
Seth Godin says, and I love Seth Godin for those who maybe don't know him. He's like a marketing guru. He's done some
One of
pretty
our OGs
yeah,
in
one of
this
the OGs.
industry.
He's been around
Yeah.
for a while. He's incredible, but he always says that too. He has a controversial, you might think it's controversial
Stance, yeah.
stance around people don't want being authentic. They just want you to be consistent.
Mhm.
So it's almost to your point. Like if you're thinking top down, like if people just want you to be consistent, how do you have to show up in your marketing day in and day out for your client? What does
Right.
that start to look like?
It is easy. Once you're able to get away from it long enough to look at it from an outsider looking in, because we're coming from the bottom up, we look at everything. Oh my gosh, I didn't post on social media, and I didn't do any videos. And what about a blog post? And somebody needs to update the website and the funnel. What was happening with that? And I mean, these thoughts that go on, they're
Mm,
not going to stop. One, because we're entrepreneurs and that's how we're wired. But there is something that's more manageable. Again, we go to the end. What is the goal of my social media?
yeah.
Start with one channel where your people are, start getting results from it, build a community. Really, we overcomplicate it because the internet, we feel like we have to serve everybody.
Yes.
What did we do before that? We met somebody locally, one person at a time. We built an authentic relationship and we sold them stuff.
Yeah, in your coffee shops when you first started, were you
Right.
selling coffee to everyone around the world?
No.
No.
No, and it was super simple once I stopped complicating it. I was
Yes.
the one who put myself in the mess, but I didn't know that there was another way. until somebody else pointed the direction.
Mhm.
So, one, give yourself a little grace and understand this is part of the process. This mess in the middle, we all go through it. I'm on my fourth business. I still go through it. It's just there, you're not getting around it. How much time you spend there and what kind of results you or solutions you learn to get through it gets faster each time. Like I can say now, oh, I've been here, done that. Stop doing that. You know what you're supposed to do. Bring that back. But until you start walking through this, it's overwhelming. And that's okay. That's part of the process.
Yeah, and I think we have certain problems when we first start out, but even when we
Yeah.
scale our business the
Yeah.
next level, we'll find that we encounter some of the similar problems coming right back again and again. And I think that that is by design too, because we
Mhm.
either you're getting clear or you're adding multiple offers and you're attracting a different type of clientele, which
Yeah.
means you do have to refine certain things. So I think that to your point, you're not gonna have problems when you're an entrepreneur. It's just how to
Never.
approach them and what's the better way for the lens to help you solve those quicker so you're able to stay consistent and be more efficient and not feel overwhelmed in the process?
That's the $1,000,000 question. And it is part of entrepreneurship. So if you're listening to this and say, oh my gosh, this overwhelm and this chaos is not for me, it is part of the journey. If you're at the beginning, assess it. If you're not prepared to take this on as a normal part of your business for the next 10 years, maybe you're not cut out for it. And not that I want to discourage anybody not to do it, but I also don't want you to live for tomorrow. Saying tomorrow it'll be better. Tomorrow, when I sell a couple things, I won't feel this way. You'll feel it. We just get better at handling it. We're quicker to find solutions. And here's the other cool thing:
Yeah.
when you start doing well, we can just write a check and that goes away as well.
Yes, you are.
And that's
Sure.
really
I
nice.
can you can support you when you know exactly what you need, how you do it, and someone just takes that little bit off your plate 100%. And I was gonna just make mention, there's something I always tell my clients, something I say to myself all the time because I am human and I'll be like, oh, I didn't do this, I'm not doing this. But I remind myself most of the time it's not a me problem, it's a
Mhm.
business problem. And we sometimes when we're starting out or we're scaling, we start to make these problems about us. Oh, our clients aren't doing it because it's me, or they don't like this. It's about me.
Yeah,
It's just about the business. So let's take that lens to approaching your
yeah.
problems as well. Because when you do that, to your point, you step back and you're able to see the business as the business, and you can make better decisions
Mhm.
quicker as well.
Please let that sink in. It's not necessarily about you. A lot of times it's the mindset and like you just said, the lens that we're looking through. Oh my gosh, they don't like me. I'm not loud enough. I'm not out
Mm,
there enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. It's normally not that at all. If you've got the right product with the right message
mm,
to the right audience, that's it, guys. Stop overcomplicating this. So
totally.
let's pivot a little bit. What is one of the biggest challenges that you see people get tripped up in that are able to, no, just do this and they're able to move through it faster?
Well, I think one that I find really interesting because I think it's something that's really sneaky.
Okay.
And I want to full disclosure, this has been something that I have to also keep myself accountable for. But I a lot of my clients and those, whether they're just starting a business or they're scaling from that 5 to 6 figure like plateau and beyond, is perfectionism. And maybe that is
Mhm.
not the answer the answer you were thinking I was going to say, but I see this creep up so much. And I see it in the way that we look at our marketing, that we need to be perfect before we post. We need to have the right message. We need to do it a certain way. Perfectionism can also be hidden in like the time we have to dedicate to our business or don't do. And the biggest thing I see is that it also keeps us hiding,
Oh, that's
keeps us
good.
from showing up and marketing and telling everybody that we can help them, that we are
Right.
here, that this transformation that they're looking for, we can help them, we can solve their problem. We can do it this way, right? And so I see that often so much. And it's something that I work with my clients a lot on is that we look at where they're getting stuck in their business and we look at really remapping their mindset, their
Mm.
beliefs to show how it's holding them back in their business and what they can do moving forward to actually smash the perfectionism and actually show up in the business that they want so they can create the results that they want. They can have a bigger impact in the business and on their clients.
That is a huge one. That's been a huge one for me as well.
Yeah.
Growing into the project that I'm on now, the Zindo and Company Marketplace,
Huh.
is the biggest thing I've ever done professionally, mentally. And it's definitely pushed me, especially because I know what the right thing to do is. So there's that curse of knowledge thing that kind of come up and bite you when you least expect it. I would almost like to know less because I would have taken more risk. But
Mhm.
because I know how
Yeah.
it's supposed to be done, it
Yes.
does push me into a place of perfectionism. But at the same time, that's the product they're buying from me. So
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah.
tough place to be. Maybe like a fitness person.
Oh,
So
I
I'm selling
relate.
fitness, but I'm not in shape.
Mhm.
Therefore, I need to get
Mhm.
in shape.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people will think I can't get them the result.
Yeah.
That's what I run into with this marketing stuff. So my community is based on marketing. I can't show up halfway. I'm saying I can do X for you. I have to have X available to show you that I can produce that result. So it's a tough place to be. And how I work through it is I just continually work on myself. So part of that is getting me to a place where if somebody says, Audrey, you said you were going to do X, I can say, you're right, but this is the first step. I don't have to give you all the five now. Let's get you through the one that I've built, then I'll give you two and I'll give you three, and I can build it as we go through it together.
Yeah.
And that has
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I agree with you because, as somebody who was in marketing in industry,
Mhm.
I'd have a team around me. I'd have not necessarily a huge team, but I'd have 4 or 5 people
Yeah.
working with me. And I would have a graphic designer. I would have a web team. I had a marketing coordinator. I had somebody
Mhm.
else working, doing search and Google ads. Then all of a sudden I shift into entrepreneur life. I no longer have this big team that I'm
You know,
holding the edge. And
that
I'm like,
sucks.
and I'm doing all of the things that I'm not necessarily the greatest at, like graphic design. Thank the Lord for Canva, but I'm just saying. And so I'm as a professional,
Yeah.
when I was doing that kind of work, it was always at an A+ mentality. And I did have to give myself some grace and be like, you know what? A B+ is actually really good. And it gets the
Yeah.
message out. And that's what I want. And that's what I started to focus my attention and my metrics
Good.
on with more like, how do I just show up, send out B+ work because it's about offering and helping people. And I had to really show myself some examples as well as it relates to people not having it 100% perfect, but still creating a great message and a mission. And I do believe that's where like I get really rooted in what's your story and really understanding that because that amplified is what
Right.
spreads.
Right.
And so I'm with you. I totally can relate with you. I agree. It shows up in
Ugh.
weird places in my business all the time, that perfectionism.
Oh, it's so even Simone and I, as much knowledge as we have in this industry, we still run into it. To go back to just reconfirm, it's not that you're trying to get rid of the challenges that come up in your business. They're always going to come up. We just develop better skills to work through it until it shows up again. Then once you hit it again, then you can say, oh, yeah, I remember this. I had to go spend some time on myself. I had to take a break. I had to get some outside help, whatever that looks like to help you work through that different stage. The goal, and to take it back to at the very beginning of this conversation and not getting into the weeds of tasks, focused on results. All of our time, we have a lot to do as a small business, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur. The goal is when you sit down to map out your day, is it filled with tasks? Is it filled with stuff that's actually not going to get you results? Now, don't get me wrong, we still have to do the how,
Yeah.
right? We still have to get in the weeds and we still have to do step one, step two, step three. But are those 10 steps going to get you to some kind of result? Or is it just 10 steps and tomorrow you have another 10 steps? And again, you're not talking to the client, you're not putting out offers, you're not asking somebody to buy because you're allowing yourself to hide in those 10 tasks. So you got to stop doing that because 6 months from now, you're not going to be in business and you're going to have to go get a job.
Yeah,
So
that was perfectly put. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
stop
Stop.
doing it.
It's okay. It's okay that it happens. Our brains are our brains, but just be aware of it. Yeah.
And start putting whatever that is for you. If it's going out for a run, if it's breaking concentration, maybe you start out in the morning with a list of tasks and you say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to work on this till noon. And then
Mhm.
I'm going to shift and I'm going to focus on engagement and talking to members or joining a group where your people live or posting content, whatever your organic marketing looks like, then maybe that's how you split your day. But you've got to be able to spend some time. I've had so many clients that get stuck in that first part. A
Mhm.
year later, they built something cool, but they have no traffic. Nobody knows who they are. There's no brand. There's literally no footprint out there for them. And they have to start over again. Yeah, they built all the stuff under the water, that iceberg picture.
Yeah.
They built all the iceberg underneath, but again, there's nothing up here to even show that they existed yet.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's why I really believe that you need to keep marketing simple to be
Mhm.
sustainable. I really do believe getting rid of all the fluff, which my clients do resist me. They resist that part because our brain is wired to believe more is better. And when you're like, actually, really great marketing is really simple at the end
Yeah,
of the day. It's actually
that's a great point.
super simple. People are like, no, it's not. But it's like one client, one offer, one clear message, simple plan, show up, tell your story,
Stop
make that time.
complicating
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Just and make that time. That's it. And when you do that and you do that over and over again, that's when you start to get the traction. And it
Yeah.
really is about getting rid of the extra things that you don't need. And to your point, if you really know like what is your result that you're working towards, it also helps you to look at your to-do list and be like, oh, I don't actually need to do half of those things.
'Cause it's not gonna get me any closer. They need to get done, but they don't
Yeah,
need to get done right now because I'm
exactly.
not making any money or I'm not making enough money. So focus
100%.
on I'm every client I've gone into for the last 10 years, I first thing I do is I look at how do I get you to revenue or more revenue faster?
Mm,
It's always based on that.
yeah.
Regardless if they so a lot of times I found they would bring me in early in my agency time for social media. That was what I was known for. But social media was not converting to sales yet. And I got very good at looking at the whole marketing system and saying, I know you want me to focus on social media, but what if you got a decent email list? What if I could help you monetize that even faster and then it'll
Mhm.
pay for this other stuff that's a little longer play? Or maybe
Yes.
they want me to do SEO or something like that.
Yeah.
And they don't see any kind of return on that money for some time
Oh,
and they
nope.
get frustrated with spending it. Audra, we paid you $5,000 and we're not seeing any results yet. I'm like, dude, this is like 6 months,
Yes.
especially for SEO.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because I feel like that's something that is a huge misconception. People
Yeah.
are like, oh, I hear this trend is happening this. But what we forget is that marketing is really like two buckets, maybe three, right? You have short term marketing and then you have long term marketing, right? And then you could think about collaborations, referrals. I sometimes put that in as third bucket. But everyone they don't know which one is which. But as even like to a certain part, if you don't have an email list, that takes time to generate and build up. Social media can be a short win, but it also is a long term strategy too. So, understanding where they are and what you need to do is really
Yeah.
important. And to your point, I do the same thing with my clients. Like that simple marketing plan needs to be about some short term tactics if you're looking to generate revenue right away. But then you also need to at least have one long term tactic that you're building up over
Yeah.
time that can sustain your business as you move forward.
Yeah. And the quicker you get to revenue, conversation changes. Am I
Mhm.
hiring somebody? Am I
Yeah.
adding another marketing channel? Am I buying ads? Am I hiring a copywriter? You get the options change quite a bit when you can get
Yeah.
to revenue.
So true.
So if you're just getting started or you've been around for a little while, you know that you'll gain more leverage in your business and once the you can kick on the money machine. And it doesn't have to be big money to be able to add. Maybe you're not great at graphics, but you don't have a few $100 to put them towards something. When you're making a little bit of money, you get to find somebody that can help with some of the stuff that you're suffering through. Believe me, I do not enjoy every single opportunity when it comes to marketing. There are now I know how to do them. That's a little bit different. I can get in the weeds. I've built probably 500 websites over the last 10 years, but I don't love them all. I just know that they're necessary.
It's
Yeah.
true. So true.
And I've done both. So I've done the managing a team, and I have to tell you, I much rather manage the team, having an expert copywriter and an ads person and I just get to make all I like the orchestra
Yeah,
no,
yeah, like the
conductor.
conductor.
There it is.
I'm
I'm the
with you.
conductor. I love doing that. That is no, I create the strategy and the plan and you guys go
Yeah,
do the work.
yeah.
But sometimes you don't get to do that. So the good thing is you have to hold yourself accountable enough to know what's supposed to be done, and then you can delegate it out as you grow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So as we come to the end of this, what would be a piece of advice you would share to somebody that's struggling through the middle right now?
I think a bit of advice that I think I just give to somebody who's struggling in the middle is first, you can sell to the people in front of you.
Okay.
Market to the people in front of you. Because sometimes I think when we are struggling in the middle, maybe we've had a client drought or we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, it's because we're looking outside of what we already have and we're feeling really overwhelmed. But guess what? There are people right now following you, watching you. There are people that are listening and wanting, they're just waiting for that next thing that will allow them to book maybe a consult with you or reach out to you and ask you for your services, right? And I think we get lost in that. So, really focus on the people who are right in front of you. That could be your own personal network, it could be online, but really focus there first because I promise you, when you do that first and you do that well, it's going to help you create momentum and then get out of that messy middle a little bit and keep you moving forward.
Perfectly said. Momentum is your best friend when it comes to this.
It
Don't,
is.
yeah, you got to stay at it till it kicks in. And when it does, man, it's beautiful.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. All right. Simon, this has been awesome. I hope
Okay.
people are able to walk away and understand that this mess is normal. Sometimes you got to close that noise off, focus on what am I doing today? Am I going to get the results that my business needs to keep moving me forward?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, this has been such a good conversation. I feel like we could chat forever.
We
So,
could too much. We'll have to put something together and just talk about marketing, some advanced stuff that's not, but no, there's benefits on both sides of this. When you get it right and you get a nice little machine together and it just takes off and you connect your clients to your products and it's beautiful.
it is
It is.
100%. Best part of building your business. I promise.
Awesome. All right. Until next time, you guys keep moving through the middle.